everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. You know, it's a new year.
New year.
So new goals, same old struggle to actually achieve them, right?
Right.
But what if I told you there's a way to make those resolutions actually stick? We are diving deep into a podcast script today that claims people who set specific goals are 10 times more likely to succeed.
Whoa.
Pretty compelling reason to tune in, right?
10 times. That really does underscore the power of setting those intentions with clarity. It's like the difference between wandering aimlessly
Oh.
and plotting a course on a map. You are far more likely to reach your destination if you know where you're heading.
I love that. That's a great analogy. It's like having a GPS for life. But even with GPS, sometimes those long road trips can feel overwhelming.
Absolutely. And that's where the SMART method comes in.
Okay.
Think of it as breaking down that cross-country trip into manageable daily drives. The script really emphasizes this idea of turning it a vague goal, like write a book, into a series of concrete steps.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So instead of write a book, you'd have a SMART goal. Like,
Right. Exactly. Something like write 2 pages every morning before work for the next 6 months. Suddenly, that massive, daunting goal
yeah,
feels much more attainable.
right. Okay, let's break down this SMART acronym. We hear it all the time, but a refresher never hurts. What does specific really mean in this context?
It's about moving beyond those vague aspirations and getting crystal clear on what you want to achieve.
Okay.
So instead of saying, get healthier, a specific goal would be walk for 30 minutes 3 times a week. That clarity helps you focus your efforts and measure your progress.
That makes total sense. And speaking of measuring, that's the M in SMART, right?
Precisely, a measurable goal lets you track your progress and see how far you've come, which can be incredibly motivating. So your goal is to save money, for example. You could track your progress by monitoring your bank balance each week.
I can see how that sense of progress would keep you going, but what about the A, achievable? That feels especially crucial if we're talking about avoiding feeling overwhelmed, like we were discussing earlier.
Absolutely. It's a delicate balance between setting challenging goals
Yeah.
and ensuring they're realistic. It's not about aiming low, but rather understanding your current capabilities and resources. Imagine someone who's never run a mile setting a goal to run a marathon next month.
Oh, yeah.
Setting unrealistic goals often leads to frustration and giving up altogether.
So it's about setting the bar high enough to inspire you, but not so high that you trip over it right out of the gate.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot
Hmm.
where you are pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, but still believes success is within reach. And that brings us to relevant.
Okay, so this is where our values come into play.
Absolutely. A relevant goal aligns with your values and contributes to your overall vision for your life. If your goal is to learn a new language, but you have no real interest in using it or connecting with that culture, you are less likely to stay motivated.
Yeah. It's like setting a goal to climb Mount Everest, just because everyone else is doing it, even though you hate the cold and heights.
Exactly. Choosing goals that genuinely resonate with you on a deeper level is key for long-term success. And finally, we have time-bound.
Ah, yes, deadlines. I know I personally need those to stay on track.
Deadlines create a sense of urgency and accountability. Without a time frame, it's easy to keep pushing things off indefinitely.
Right, so instead of learn to play guitar, you'd have a goal like learn 3 basic chords on the guitar by the end of next month.
That's a great example. The time constraint helps break down the learning process into smaller, more manageable steps, which brings us back to that idea of avoiding overwhelm.
Yeah, I'm starting to see how all these SMART elements work together. It's like a framework for success, providing structure and clarity. But even with the best laid plans, things don't always go smoothly, right?
You're absolutely right. Life throws curveballs, and setbacks are inevitable.
So how do we deal with those inevitable bumps in the road? Does this script offer any advice on that?
It does. It highlights the importance of having a plan B,
Okay.
anticipating potential challenges and developing strategies to overcome them.
So instead of getting derailed by every obstacle, we should expect them and have a game plan in place.
Exactly. Think of it like packing a first aid kit for your goals. You hope you won't need it, but it's there just in case.
I love that analogy, but let's be honest, sometimes, even with a plan B, those setbacks can really knock us down. How do we stay motivated when we're feeling discouraged?
That's where the power of visualization comes in.
Hmm.
The script actually dives into some fascinating research on how vividly imagining yourself achieving your goal can prime your brain for success.
Oh, I've heard about that. It's like athletes mentally rehearsing their performance before a big competition, right? But does it really work?
There's actually quite a bit of scientific evidence to support it. It turns out our brains don't always distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. So by regularly visualizing your success, you're strengthening those neural pathways
Hmm.
and making it more likely you'll take the actions needed to achieve your goal.
So it's like giving our brains a sneak peek of the finish line to get them excited about the race.
Exactly. And another powerful tool for staying motivated is finding an accountability partner, someone who can support you on your journey and help you stay on track. The script really emphasizes the importance of sharing your goals with someone you trust, someone who can provide encouragement and gentle nudges when needed.
So it's like having a cheerleader in your corner,
Yeah.
someone to celebrate your wins with and help you get back up when you stumble.
That's a great way to put it. Accountability can be a game changer, especially when motivation wanes.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that you're not alone in this journey.
This is all so fascinating. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. From the importance of setting smart goals to the power of visualization and accountability. But there's still so much more to explore.
Absolutely. In the next part, we'll delve deeper into the psychological aspects of goal setting, including the role of motivation, self-discipline, and those sneaky mental blocks that can hold us back. Welcome back.
Oh, it's so fascinating to consider how much of achieving goals comes down to not just the what, but the how, the mindset and strategies we bring to the table.
You're so right. Last time we talked about setting smart goals and how important visualization and accountability can be, but I'm really curious to explore the psychology behind all of this.
Yeah.
What role does motivation play in making those goals a reality?
Motivation is absolutely key. It's that inner drive that propels us forward. But I think a lot of people misunderstand motivation. They think it's something you either have or you don't, like some kind of magical talent.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there.
I know, I've definitely fallen into that trap. When I'm not feeling motivated, it's easy to just give up and say, well, I guess I'm just not a motivated person.
But here's the thing. Motivation isn't some fixed trait. It's more like a muscle that you can strengthen with practice.
Okay.
And one of the best ways to build that motivation muscle is to connect your goals to your values.
Okay. I can see that if you're passionate about something, it doesn't feel like a chore.
Yeah.
It's something you want to do even when it gets tough.
Exactly when you feel a strong connection to your goal, it taps into that intrinsic motivation, which is much more sustainable than relying solely on external rewards or pressure. The script gave the example of learning a language. If your goal is simply to become fluent,
Right.
it might feel daunting and abstract. But if you connect it to a deeper desire, say the ability to connect with your grandparents in their native tongue, suddenly that motivation becomes much more powerful.
Wow, that's such a great example. It's not just about learning the language, it's about strengthening those family bonds and experiencing that cultural connection firsthand.
Exactly. And that emotional connection can be a huge source of motivation,
Right.
especially when those inevitable challenges arise. Because let's be honest, there will be days when you don't feel like studying those verb conjugations.
Well, tell me about it. But that's where self-discipline comes in,
Right.
right? That ability to push through those moments of resistance and stay focused on the bigger picture.
Self-discipline is essential for bridging the gap between intention and action. It's what allows us to stay committed to our goals even when we don't feel like it, especially when that initial excitement wears off.
But self-discipline can feel so restrictive, like a constant battle against our natural inclinations.
I think the key is to shift our perspective on self-discipline. Instead of viewing it as a form of punishment or deprivation, we can reframe it as a form of self-care.
Okay.
Think about it when you exercise self-discipline. You are essentially saying to yourself, I care enough about my future self to make these choices now.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. So it's not about denying yourself pleasure. It's about investing in your future happiness and well-being.
Precisely. And one of the most effective ways to cultivate self-discipline is to start small.
Uh-huh.
The script actually talked about how trying to change too much too quickly can backfire.
Oh.
It's like trying to run a marathon without ever having jogged around the block.
So instead of going cold turkey on sugar, maybe start by cutting out soda just one day a week.
It's exactly. Small, consistent changes are much more sustainable in the long run. And as you experience those small wins, you build momentum and confidence, which makes it easier to take on bigger challenges. It's like building a habit muscle one rep at a time.
This is so insightful. I love this idea of reframing self-discipline as an act of self-care and focusing on small, manageable changes, but even with motivation and self-discipline, we often need support along the way, which brings us back to that idea of accountability that we touched on earlier.
Accountability can be incredibly powerful. It's like having a safety net when you are learning to walk a tightrope. It provides that extra support and encouragement to help you stay balanced and focused. The script emphasized the importance of choosing an accountability partner wisely, someone who is supportive and encouraging, not judgmental or overly critical.
So it's like finding a supportive coach, someone who believes in you and your abilities, but also isn't afraid to give you that tough love when you need it.
Exactly the ideal accountability partner. Will celebrate your wins with you and provide that gentle nudge when you start to slip. They can help you stay focused on your goals and remind you why you started in the first place, especially when those inevitable moments of self-doubt creep in.
Speaking of self-doubt, how do we deal with those negative thoughts that can sabotage our best efforts? We all have that inner critic that loves to whisper, you can't do this or you're not good enough.
Oh, that inner critic can be so insidious. It's like a gremlin that thrives on our insecurities. The script talked about the importance of practicing self-compassion as an antidote to self-doubt.
Self-compassion, that sounds a bit touchy-feely. How does that actually help us achieve our goals?
It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a dear friend.
Okay.
Imagine a friend comes to you feeling discouraged about a setback. Would you berate them and tell them they're a failure?
Of course not. I'd offer support and encouragement, remind them of their strengths, and help them figure out how to move forward.
Exactly. So why are we so quick to beat ourselves up when we stumble?
I guess it's easier to be kind to others than to ourselves sometimes.
That's so true. But learning to silence that inner critic and replace those negative thoughts with more supportive ones is crucial for maintaining motivation and resilience.
So instead of saying, I messed up, I'm such a failure, we could say, okay, I made a mistake, but I'm learning from it, and I'll do better next time.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging our imperfections without letting them define us. And another helpful tip is to focus on our strengths. Instead of dwelling on our weaknesses, we can remind ourselves of our past successes and the qualities that make us uniquely capable of achieving our goals.
So it's like shifting our focus from what we lack to what we already possess, from a place of scarcity to a place of abundance.
It's exactly. It's about recognizing that we already have everything we need within us to achieve our dreams. And sometimes it helps to surround ourselves with people who reflect that belief back to us, people who support our aspirations and remind us of our potential. Think about the people in your life who lift you up and make you believe in yourself. Those are the people you want in your corner on this goal-setting journey.
It's like building a dream team, a support system that fuels your motivation and helps you stay on course when the going gets tough.
I love that analogy because ultimately achieving our goals is rarely a solo endeavor. It's about harnessing the power of community support and self-belief to propel us forward.
This has been such an enlightening conversation. I'm starting to see how all these psychological elements, motivation, self-discipline, accountability, self-compassion, are like pieces of a puzzle that fit together to create a pathway to success. It's not just about setting a goal and hoping for the best. It's about cultivating the mindset and habits that empower us to actually achieve it.
That's beautifully put. And speaking of habits, in the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore some practical tips for overcoming those common goal-setting obstacles, those pesky distractions and that insidious procrastination that can derail even the best intentions.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into achieving goals.
It's been quite a journey.
Oh, it really has.
We've talked about everything from the nuts and bolts of SMART goals to the power of mindset and self-compassion.
It's amazing how all these pieces fit together, but let's be honest. Even with the best intentions and strategies, there are always those pesky obstacles that pop up along the way.
You're absolutely right. Life has a way of throwing curveballs. And sometimes those curveballs look a lot like procrastination and distractions.
Oh, tell me about it. Procrastination is my arch nemesis. It's like this invisible force field that keeps me from getting things done, especially when those tasks feel big and daunting.
Procrastination is a universal struggle. It's our brain's way of trying to protect us from discomfort or perceived threats.
So how do we break through that force field and actually get things done?
Well, one of the most effective strategies, and one that the script highlights, is to break down those large tasks into smaller, more manageable chunks.
We've talked about this before, but it's worth repeating sometimes. Just looking at the big picture can be paralyzing.
Exactly. Instead of trying to climb Mount Everest in a single leap, focus on taking one step at a time.
I love that analogy. It's about creating a series of achievable milestones that lead to the summit.
And another helpful tip is to set deadlines for those smaller tasks.
Deadlines, I know they can be stressful, but I have to admit they do light a fire under me.
They create a sense of urgency. and help us prioritize.
And they prevent us from getting lost in the weeds of perfectionism.
That's so important. Sometimes done is better than perfect.
So true. It's about making progress, not getting stuck in a cycle of endless refining.
Speaking of getting stuck, let's talk about distractions.
Ugh, distractions, they're everywhere these days. It's like our attention spans are under constant attack.
It's true, social media, emails, notifications. It's a never-ending battle for our focus.
So how do we reclaim our attention and create a more conducive environment for achieving our goals?
The script had some really practical advice on this one strategy, is to create dedicated blocks of time for focused work.
Time blocking, it's a game changer. I've started doing this recently. And it's amazing how much more I get done when I have those uninterrupted stretches of time.
It's about being intentional with your time and treating those focused work blocks as sacred appointments.
And during those blocks, eliminate all distractions. Turn off notifications, silence your phone close, unnecessary tabs. Create a sanctuary of focus.
Love that. And if you find yourself getting pulled away by those tempting distractions, gently guide your attention back to the task at hand.
It's like training a puppy with patience and consistency. You can develop those focus muscles.
That's a great analogy. And remember, it's okay to take breaks. In fact, regular breaks can actually boost your productivity.
That's something I'm still working on. I tend to get so hyper-focused that I forget to take breaks, and then I end up braining out.
It's important to listen to your body and give your mind a chance to rest and recharge. Schedule those breaks into your day just like you schedule your focused work blocks.
Okay, procrastination distractions. We've tackled those two biggies. What about those moments of self-doubt that can creep in and sabotage our progress?
Self-doubt is a sneaky beast, isn't it? It can whisper all sorts of negative thoughts in our ears, making us question our abilities and our worthiness.
And those thoughts can be so debilitating. It's like they drain all the energy and motivation right out of you.
So how do we silence that inner critic and cultivate a more positive and empowering inner voice?
Well, we talked about self-compassion earlier, and I think that plays a huge role.
Absolutely. It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a loved one.
Instead of beating ourselves up for mistakes, we can acknowledge them, learn from them, and move on.
And remember to focus on your strengths. Celebrate your accomplishments, big and small, and remind yourself of all the amazing qualities you bring to the table.
Shift that focus from what we lack to what we already possess.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of surrounding yourself with positive and supportive people.
People who believe in you and lift you up. Because negativity and self-doubt can be contagious. But so can positivity and encouragement.
It's like choosing to breathe fresh air instead of smog.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new toolbox of strategies and insights to help me achieve my goals and maybe even enjoy the journey a little more.
Me too. Remember, setting goals is a powerful way to create a life that's aligned with your values and aspirations.
It's a journey of self-discovery, growth, and transformation.
And while there will be challenges along the way, with the right mindset and a sprinkle of self-compassion, you can overcome those obstacles and achieve anything you set your mind to.
So what are you waiting for? Go out there, set those goals, and make those dreams a reality.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into achievable goal setting. We'll see you next time for another adventure in exploring the world of knowledge and ideas.